I think the media secretly love it when President Trump does the "you're fired" thing, although he doesn't actually do it himself. He usually has somebody else do it. Because it gives the press an opportunity to talk about turnover and White House chaos and did the person deserve to be fired. And by the way, some of these are not exactly shocking anymore. I mean, who in America didn't know Rex Tillerson was going to get fired for months and then weeks before he actually got canned? And the latest casualty, the VA Secretary David Shulkin, I'm surprised he didn't walk out the door because, you know, all of the tweets and the leaks, how unhappy the president was with his Veterans Affairs Secretary made pretty clear that he was next to go. But when it happened, you know, the framing, it's always interesting the way the media frame these things. More chaos in the White House. And I'm going to suggest that there's a counter narrative, which is, I mean, there's no dispute that there's been a huge amount of turnover, both on the senior level at the White House staff and at the cabinet level. So it's not exactly a smoothly functioning machine. But maybe, just maybe, the VA secretary deserved to be fired by President Trump. He had really gotten himself into a heap of trouble. He was bringing a lot of bad press to the administration. So there was an Inspector General's report, as you may know, about Shulkin taking this $120,000 trip to Europe, bringing his wife along and changing some things to get her airfare to be paid for, accepting free Wimbledon tickets. When you do those things, the bureaucracy finds out, you get spanked, and that did not look good. At the same time, Shulkin was involved in kind of an internal civil war at his department. He was openly at war with some of his top deputies, who he accused of plotting to undermine him. And so it just looked like he didn't have control of the department. And then beneath that, there actually was a legitimate policy dispute, which was there were people at the VA and perhaps some in the White House who want to push more privatization on the VA. Because let's face it, remember the horrifying scandals about the long waiting lists that were even falsified, and by the time some veterans got care, they were even sicker, or in some cases not still around when their numbers were called on the waiting list. So there's this debate about pushing out more services into the private sector, and Shulkin was opposed to that. And by the way, if the president doesn't agree, he's entitled to get rid of a cabinet member, who he once said he would never say "you're fired" to, and replace him with someone else. So all of the chaos stories, I think, kind of reduced to secondary status what Shulkin had done. By the way, it's one of the most thankless jobs in Washington, a 360,000 person dysfunctional bureaucracy. It's been a problem for years. Probably nobody can fully tame it. And Shulkin did some good things there. He then took to the op-ed page in the New York Times to protest. He wrote such things as that the atmosphere in Washington, he mentioned Trump by name, toxic, chaotic, disrespectful, and subversive. Okay. He said he'd been falsely accused of things by people who wanted him out of the way, and should not be that hard to serve his country. And, you know, that's a fair point. These people are public servants and they do get pilloried, but sometimes there are self-inflicted wounds along the way. So the second part of the story, after the president finally, you know, stopped letting Shulkin twist in the wind, is hiring his personal physician, Ronny Jackson, to take Shulkin's place at the VA. A lot of mockery and sort of laughter about that. Now, there is a legitimate question here. Ronny Jackson is apparently a first-class doctor. He is a rear admiral, but he's never managed anything. And the main problem with the VA is this sprawling, massive, dysfunctional bureaucracy, and he doesn't have any experience in tackling that kind of thing. Now, when you're a cabinet secretary, you can even be good at presenting the public case, and you can have strong managers around you, but nevertheless, that's legitimate criticism. But the media take is this. Well, Jackson won the job when he had that hour-long press conference in the White House briefing room and went on and on and on about how great Donald Trump's health was. You know, how God gave him good genes and he could have lived for 200 years and all of that stuff. It was so effusive that he got made fun of on Saturday Night Live. Well, okay, it's no secret. The president likes people who are good on TV, especially if they're good on TV praising Donald Trump. But look, in the end, the decision to get rid of Shulkin and bring in Dr. Ronny Jackson is either going to be seen as taking the VA in the right direction, or if it's true that Jackson has little idea how to handle the massive problems he'll be inheriting, then it won't be seen as such a good move. But I do think that the problems that Shulkin had were addressed in the sort of the second half of a lot of newspaper stories, and that's fine. But it seems to me the underlying media assumption is that Trump did this because he needs somebody he's comfortable with for ego reasons, when maybe, just maybe in this case, Shulkin was so controversial and had made so many missteps that it was time for him to go.